Recently, in a British Columbia only realtors Facebook group, there was a post shared about a very sneaky clause that's been added to the disclosure statement for a new property. In fact, this isn't the first time that we have seen this, but we haven't seen it in quite a while, and they're starting to become even more prevalent. This is something that could enormously affect a buyer and the purchase of new construction in BC. So buyer beware. If you have considered buying new construction property, you definitely want to watch this video because you do not want to get burned. Stay tuned. What's good, everybody? It's Darin Germyn from the Germyn Group, where we know you've only got one chance to either buy or sell your next home. So we're here to help you get it right. Be sure to click the subscribe button because you do not want to miss any of our recent videos coming out on everything real estate related in Surrey, BC, and surrounding areas. And it's going to help other great people like you find our channel and get the good content as well. All right. And the last thing I'll say, we're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers before the end of July, which is coming up pretty quick. So do me a solid, hit the subscribe button. And if you don't like the content, just unsubscribe. So what did we find in these disclosure statements that has got the whole real estate community in an absolute uproar? Well, it is this. It is a clause that is worded completely legalese, and as it normally would be, but essentially what it says is that if something called the BCPI increases by over 4%, a developer can now increase the purchase price of a property, the purchase price of a property that was already agreed to, they can increase it by the same amount. What this means is if you signed a contract with a buyer to buy a new home, like a condominium or a townhome, and this little clause was in your disclosure statement, you could see massive increases to the purchase price of which you already agreed to. The BCPI is called the Building Construction Price Index. This is something that is prepared by Statistics Canada, where they survey buyers from all across Canada on what they are seeing with the prices of residential construction materials. Actually, it's not just residential construction, it's all construction, but what the materials and labor are costing people. And obviously, I don't think anybody would not understand that prices go up, and they have gone up. What is entirely problematic about this, however, is normally when a buyer buys a new construction property, let's say for $500,000, that's the price they anticipate buying it for, paying when the property completes, when the project is ready to occupy. Let's say in 2025 as an example. So they have been pre-approved for this amount. They know how much they make it work, and they start budgeting around this amount to pay this $500,000 in the next 3 years or so. Well, with this little clause that's been added to these disclosure statements now, this means if construction, labor, and materials go up, which they likely will, the price can go up as well. Let me give you an example of how scary this can be. Statistics Canada reports that in the first quarter of 2022, residential construction costs went up 5.6%. 5.6%. That is a huge increase, and that's only in 3 months. Here's an even more incredible number. In the last year, the same Stats Canada reports that the prices of residential construction across the 11 major markets in Canada went up over 20%. 22.6% in the 11 major metropolitan areas in Canada. That is a monstrous increase. This means that if you had a pre-sale contract and this was in the disclosure statement, that you could see a 22.6% increase in the price that you pay for your property when it completes. Now, let's stretch that out over the course of a couple years where we maybe brought a pre-construction in 2019 and then saw the massive boost in property values from the COVID-19 pandemic. Imagine the new property prices of a home that had a little clause like that. Now, of course, developers are going to have construction costs go up. I don't think anyone's worried about that, but that is certainly completely unfair for a buyer, especially because of the retribution that could occur if you're unable to pay that price. A very prominent British Columbia lawyer got wind of this as well and started soliciting the other lawyers in their office to get some opinions on this new type of clause we're seeing in these disclosure statements. They asked a few questions of those in their office, and this is what those were. Is it legal? Yes, it is. The majority of them thought it was 100% enforceable and was clearly written down in the disclosure statement. What if prices drop by over 4%? Do they also reduce the cost by 4%? That's not in there. It's only for price increases, which is a huge upside for the developer. What if it's not in the contract or the disclosure statement? Well, it has to be there. So if you signed a pre-sale or bought a pre-sale and that kind of wording is not in there, you're off the hook. It's okay. And lastly, what happens if the buyer can't complete? Well, they probably got a huge problem on their hands. In the clause that was surfing around this Facebook group, there was no recourse for the buyer to get out of this contract. Now, you have seen probably on the news about developers doing this in Ontario as an example, and buyers getting completely pushed out of the market due to price increases. Imagine buying a new construction home 3 years ago. The price is now 50% higher, and your only recourse as a buyer is to get your deposit back if you can't complete on the deal. And that is only if that is allowable within the contract. That means you have missed out on all of the gains of the value of the property over the last few years or however long since you've entered into the agreement. And you could stand potential litigation from the developer for not fulfilling your terms of contract. This is an incredibly big problem if you sign an agreement that has this clause in it, and you have to be ultra cautious about buying new construction. And if you see a clause like that, my advice to you, run away. It makes you kind of think that should a developer, if they're going to include a clause like that, should they even be allowed to really pre-sell a building and have a clause like that in there? Because it gives zero assurance to the purchaser about what the actual purchase price might be when the property completes. Perhaps anybody in the political space that might be watching this video that deals with real estate, you might consider that should a developer be allowed to pre-sell units that far in advance with a term or clause like that in either the contract or the disclosure statement because of how incredibly detrimental that could be to a purchaser. They should really likely only be able to pre-sell if the date of completion is very, very close and the construction and material and labors are all budgeted for and maybe even paid for. In lieu of being able to offer that, this term is incredibly problematic, which just goes to show another reason why so many buyers, they actually don't think that they need a realtor when they go in to buy new construction. They kind of do it on their own. That's a big no-no, folks. You should always have a professional real estate representative watching out for your best interest and making sure you know exactly what you're getting into when you're buying either new or resale property. Anyways, guys, that's it for this video. I would love to hear your comments below on what your thoughts are about this clause. I will also post the actual clause in the comments so you can read it for yourself, as well as a link to the BCPI on StatsCan website where you can check out the increases month over month, or quarter over quarter rather, or year over year. While you're buzzing around in the details down below, also be sure to pick up one or two of our buyers and sellers guides. We just created a new one for sellers that is absolutely awesome. I think you're going to love it. Don't forget to subscribe. We'll look forward to seeing you in the next video. And as always, we appreciate you watching. I'm Darin from the Germyn Group. You've only got one chance to buy or sell your next home. Let's get it right. See you next time.